John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of
Several times a week, I pay money to let grown men try to maul me and choke me out in jujitsu. And honestly, it might be the most honest hour of my entire week because on the mats, there is no filter. There is no algorithm deciding what you see. There is no edit button. Somebody either got you or they did not. And everyone in the room watched it happen. It is one of the last places I know where nothing is polished and nothing is performed. And lately, I've been asking myself why I crave that so much. Here's what I landed on. The rest of the world is moving in the exact opposite direction. Everything is becoming more polished, more automated, more perfect, and in a lot of ways, less real. And I think people can feel it. So today I want to talk about why being a real human being is quietly becoming one of the rarest and most valuable assets in real estate and honestly everywhere else. I want to talk about why real vulnerability, not the perform kind, might be one of the advantages left that technology cannot copy. And I'm going to take you into a few places I don't talk enough on this show, and that is with faith, family, and back to the mats. Now, whether you are buying a home, selling one, or you are an agent trying to understand where this industry is going, this episode is for you. The world went synthetic. So what I mean by that is what I'm seeing in real estate right now, and you tell me if you are seeing it too. Every listing description sounds perfect. Every set of photos looks flawless. Every agent has automated follow-up, instant responses, and a content machine pushing out the same five hooks, the same drone shots, and the same just listed graphics. If you are a buyer or seller, scroll through real estate content for 2 minutes and be honest. Can you even tell most of us apart? And listen, I am not here to trash technology. I use it. The tools are very real and they work. And any agent who completely ignores them is going to ultimately fall behind. That debate is over. But there is a basic rule in almost every market, including housing. When something becomes abundant, it becomes less valuable. Polished marketing used to require a team and a big budget. Now almost anyone can create it in minutes. So polish by itself no longer tells you much about the person you're hiring. Sometimes all it tells you is that they have the same subscription as everybody else. So what is left? Take away everything technology can do in this business and look at what remains. Sitting across from a seller and telling them their home is worth less than they hoped, then staying in the room for their reaction. Talking a first-time buyer off the ledge at 10 o'clock at night and reading a person, not just a spreadsheet, and knowing when they are saying yes, but they really mean no. Negotiating with another person who has fears, pressure, and a whole story happening on their side of the deal. Showing up in person when showing up is inconvenient. None of that has been automated. And here's what took me a while to realize. That was always the real job. Technology did not make our profession less important. It removed a lot of the noise around the work and exposed what the work actually is. If you are an agent, that should change how you spend your week. And if you are buying or selling, it should change what you look for when you hire someone. So the proof. Let me make this real with two stories from my own business. Earlier this year, I listed a home in Bluebell, and of course, I did the analysis, I worked through the pricing and built the marketing plan. But then I did something no software could do for me. I printed flyers and knocked on doors. I walked the neighborhood and spoke with people face to face about the home coming to the market. That property went under contract in 3 days at a price that may be at a record for that development. Now, I can prove that knocking on doors is what made it happen. Now, can I prove that knocking on doors is what made it happen? No, I can't isolate one variable and pretend that was the entire reason, but I can tell you what I did. It created real conversations. Neighbors talk. Neighbors know people who have been waiting for an opportunity to get into that community. And a listing becomes more than a link on a screen when a real person hands you a flyer and looks you in the eye and tells you there's a story behind it. In a world full of identical digital marketing, the personal interaction is what people ultimately remember. Here is a second story. I'm going to keep the details private because this involved another client. Earlier this year, I had buyers whose inspection uncovered moisture readings behind the stucco. Then they received a mold report on top of it. Picture that moment, right? Two people love a house, but now they are staring at a report filled with language that scares them while trying to make a six-figure decision. There's no app for that moment. They did not need more information. They were already drowning in information, if anything. They needed judgment. They needed a steady voice from someone who had seen situations like this before, someone who could help them understand what the reports actually meant, what the repairs could statistically involve, and what walking away would look like. That week, that was the job. And here's a pattern in both stories. The tools handle the information. Again, the tools handle the information, the human handles the fear. Real estate has always been a fear management business. It may be the biggest purchase of your life or the biggest sale of your life, and there are 1,000 different ways to feel like you are making the wrong decision. The person who can sit with you in that uncertainty is more valuable today, not less, precisely because everything around that moment has become automated. The vulnerability trap. Now, I want to push back on something because there is a trap inside this whole movement to be real, right? Being real has become a content strategy, and because of that, a lot of what looks vulnerable is still a performance. You've probably seen it. The crying video with perfect lighting, the vulnerable confession that somehow always ends with a sales pitch, the raw and unfiltered post that went through 4 drafts. That is not always vulnerability. Sometimes that is performance dressed up to look like vulnerability, and people can usually feel the difference even if they cannot explain it. So here's my test for whether something is actually real. Does it cost you anything? Real vulnerability usually has a price. A while back on this podcast, I had admitted that I had avoided for a long time. I kept telling myself the long hours, the grinding, and the constant work were all for my family, but that was not completely true. A lot of it, honestly, was for me from a selfish standpoint. My own ambition, my need to feel productive, my need to feel like I was moving forward. Sometimes my family was the excuse, not the reason. Saying that out loud cost me something. It was not a branding move. It was true. It was uncomfortable. And honestly, honestly, I thought about cutting it out. That is usually how you know. Now, if you are a buyer or seller, apply the same test to your real estate agent. Has your agent ever told you something that could cost them money? Have they ever said, do not buy this house? Have they ever told you that your price was too high, knowing you might list with someone else? Have they ever talked you out of a deal they would have gotten paid on? If every piece of honesty somehow points toward a commission, you may not be hearing honesty. You might just be hearing sales with good manners. And the agents worth hiring, and honestly, the people worth trusting in any area of life, are the ones whose truth are attached. Look for the receipt. I told you I was going to take this somewhere I do not usually go in this show, so here it is. Staying human is not just a mindset, it is a practice. And I have 3 places that keep bringing me back. The first is the mats, right? The jujitsu mats. People think jujitsu and Muay Thai are only about fitness. And for me, they are always about honesty. When somebody better than you gets a hold of you, you tap. And you tap in front of everyone, and there is nothing to explain. It is humility on demand several times a week. And for that hour, I am completely present because I have no choice. You can't pick up your phone or check your phone while somebody's trying to take your arm home with them, right? In a life full of screens, I pay for that privilege of going somewhere a screen cannot follow me. Everybody needs a place like this. It doesn't have to be a jiu-jitsu gym. It doesn't have to be a fight, but it should be somewhere where real life can still get its hands on you. The second place is my faith. I don't talk about this enough on the podcast, but my faith shapes how I do business more than any system ever has. My faith is a fixed point. It does not change. It does not change the algorithm. It does not care about my production numbers or my follower count. It reminds me of my worth, and that has settled a long time ago, and it was never settled by a spreadsheet per se. It also reminds me that the person across the table is not a lead and not a transaction. That is a person with a whole life attached, just like me. When you actually believe that, it changes how you handle people, and it changes how you write an offer. It changes what you are willing to say and what you are not willing to say just to win a deal. And the market is always asking how to convert more people. My faith forces me to ask a better question. What kind of man am I becoming while I build all of this? And the third piece is my family. Sometimes it is nothing dramatic. It is dinner at table with Jen and Jordan. It is putting Jordan to bed and realizing that he does not care what I sold that week. He only cares whether dad is there. That is the point of everything I have built. I did not build systems and a team so I could fill every open hour with more real estate. I built them so I could be at the table and present in those small moments. The trap I mentioned earlier, working for my family instead of being with my family, is something I still have to fight. And that's just me being honest. And the difference now is that I can see it more clearly. One is supposed to support my life. The other one is my life. Let me bring this home with some practical advice. If you are an agent, use the tools, right? Let technology handle the mechanical work, data entry, scheduling, first drafts, repetitive follow-up. You were never truly being paid for those things anyway, but protect the human moments. The phone call after the inspection, the difficult pricing convo, right? Showing up in person when the deal is falling apart. Guard those moments like they are the business, because ultimately they are. Agents who struggle over the next 5 years will not struggle simply because technology beat them. They will struggle because they only offer the parts of the job that technology could do. If you are buying or selling, your phone can already send your listings. That is not a service anymore. That is a search bar. So hire for the part that is left. Hire the person who answers when it is inconvenient. The person who tells you the truth even when it costs them. The person who can sit at the kitchen table with you when the mold report shows up and help you make a clear decision. Do not just interview for knowledge. Interview for judgment, honesty, and humanity. And for everyone listening, no matter what you do for a living, technology is going to keep getting better. And honestly, let it. Use it. But be clear about its job. Its job is to give you back your time. Your job is to use that time to become more human, not less. More present, not simply more productive. That is the trade. Do not get it backwards like I did. If this episode made you think of somebody, do not just post it. Send it directly to that person. That is probably the most human way to share it anyway.
John Lee Real Estate, find you the best rate. All throughout Philly like Schuylkill Expressway. Talking to people who out of